For me personally, the Lord has taught me that as a woman, I'm not a one-trick pony. I don't just speak to women. I don't just write to women. That the feminine heart of the Father is very unique in that He's given us a message to declare the coming of the Lord, to declare the resurrection of the Lord, to declare the birth of the Lord. I mean, from scriptures, we see women were part of that story, but to also have this conversation with men included in that room with us, where we're coming together and partnering with our brothers, not better than, but different, and partnering for this kingdom. And so it's going to shape culture as we become brave and say, I'm more than just an admin. I'm more than just a women's writer. I'm more than just a woman who acts or who writes. I'm a partner in this kingdom work with my brothers and sisters in the faith, and we are going to champion each other to make sure that the gospel goes out to the far ends of the earth. It's going to take both of us, male and female, and then prayerfully, my kids' generations, my daughters, will enter into a space where they're not having to jockey or compete for seats at a table, but they'll
Mm.
actually be pulling up chairs alongside of them, realizing that there's not just one or two seats for women, but that there is a grand buffet that has been set before us in the presence of our enemies, and that surely goodness and mercy will follow them all the days of their lives as they are obedient to do what God's called them to create and to do.
Wow, that is so good. I love that you just said that. That's been a scripture verse for me this entire year, is diving into into Psalm 23 and being reminded that God does set the table for us and that He has anointed our head with oil and our cup overfloweth. And I think about those things every single morning before I get out of bed, just thinking about what He's doing and what He's preparing me for. And already that He's already been doing it in advance of me stepping into where He's called me. It's been an incredible journey to see how we as men and women can step into this industry and really use our voices that God has given us. I think all the time when I'm talking to different groups. I was just at a conference recently and I was speaking to men and women and a lot of storytellers there. And I was just always, every time I could, I would remind them that God has given all of us, men and women, these distinct voices, and He called us individually throughout scripture and the way that He used His men and women to tell these stories. And they're so powerful. And I think about that just day in and day out of the folks that He's calling to the table, really, to tell these great stories. I would love to go back a little bit because I love when you said when you were a little girl that you would stand and, give sermons, and I think, wow, I remember being in that space where I was like putting on, whether I was creating a show for my family or whatever I was doing. Take us back a little bit to your story, your growing up, a little bit of your testimony, who you are, and how have you come to be in the place that you believe you are or that you are today?
I was a pastor's kid in a denomination who really championed women. I was never told women couldn't do anything. I was told that I'm a daughter of God and that if He's called me to it, I can do it. I had a father who believed in me and a mother who championed me, and there was never competition in our household. And so I truly did believe I could be anything that I wanted to be. I really did think that I could be Dora the Explorer, a scuba diver one day, a ballerina the next. And I took my liberty to explore all of those things. And I remember growing up in church parsonages, we didn't have a lot of money, and we would go to yard sales and I would pick out all of the baton costumes and the dance costumes and the sequins and the boas. And I would get in front of the mirror and I would look myself in the face and say, I like who you are, but there's more to you. And I loved creating characters. And then when it came time to start communicating in church and leading worship, being confident in who Christ created me to be, yes, still dealing with the same insecurities that teenage girls do, but knowing that I was called to something. And even though I didn't know what it was, I was crazy enough to believe that if I prayed about it, if I wrote about it, if I journaled about it, if I believed for it, that God would do that. And it's been 25 years of really exploring what that looks like, being disappointed, being rejected. And, I would love to say that it all has just worked out, the way that it should. But what that's really looked like for me is just holding on for dear life with the Lord and saying what Mary said, be it unto me as you have said. If you want me to be a scuba diver, I'll be the best scuba diver for Jesus. If you want me to be a writer, I'll be a writer. If you want me to be a mom, if I can be all of those things, I'm just so grateful to be used in the kingdom. And that's really that childlike faith has really followed with me. And I pray I never lose that into my old age, that I can still dream with God and say, if you want it for me, you have my yes. And that's really been a posture of mine since I was a kid is, yeah, I'm afraid sometimes, but God, you've never failed me. And so we can try things together and fail together, and he's still good and he's not mad at me. And I want to release that over a generation of women to say, if God's called you to it, you can do it. And it may not work out just like you wanted it to, but it's all going to work out for his glory and our good.